fourth principle today, and our last principle. Volume. What does volume refer to? If you remember when we were talking about progressive overload, and I said progressive overload is either increasing the number of repetitions that you're doing on a given exercise, or it's increasing the load, the weight that you're doing on a given exercise. It isn't increasing the numbers of sets you do. Remember the analogy of the leg press? Another example that is not progressive overload. Say we're doing 3 sets times 10. If I increase it to 4 sets instead of 3 sets, that's not progressive overload. That's something different. And we had 3 times 10 with 90 pounds, and we either added repetitions, or we added weight, or we did each depending on the week. And I said, starting to do 4 times 10 of the leg press is not the same thing, because it's not. That's not changing the progression of the lift. That's in fact changing the volume that you're doing for a lift. And volume is very, very complex. And we have so many fucking studies on the subject. I'm not gonna try to get too nerdy or overly sciencey about it, but there's like very strong, like the Mike Mentzer crew, like, you know, very low volume. And then there's the other group, which is like, the more volume you do, the better. And there's, by the way, there's real actual anecdotal evidence of both. Dorian Yates did low volume. He was Mr. Olympia. Ronnie Coleman did high volume. He was Mr. Olympia. Those are 2 of the greatest Mr. Olympians of all time. I know you're not trying to be Mr. Olympia, believe it or not, even I'm not trying to be Mr. Olympia. But again, these methods work, and what we really are trying to do is take you, who has a real life, a career, a family, and optimize your training, which is what my app's all about. It's giving you exactly what you need to do, hand packaged to you, so you can just pull up the app, use it, and you know exactly how to train. But volume as a whole, it's defined as the number of sets for a given muscle group per week. Volume is total sets, it's a number sign, sets per muscle per week. So as an example, we've been talking a lot about like squats or biceps, things like that. If I'm talking about my quadriceps, which is the muscle that's primarily worked when I do squats, my volume that I would do for me would be somewhere around 10 to 14 sets, because I do 2 sessions a week that are both somewhere around 5 to 7 sets of quads, and I do those twice a week, which add up to 14 sets. So I do 10 to 14 sets of quads each and every single week. Now, it's very important to understand that there is a direct link to the amount of volume you do and muscle growth. However, there is drastic diminishing returns. And it's really important that you understand that the first 10 sets that you're doing per week, because remember, we're always talking about per week. The first 10 sets you do per muscle per week are the most effective. So, and believe it or not, it even gets more drastic than that. The first set you do in the gym, the very first set of squats, like after you're done with your warm-ups, the first working set, that's actually the most effective set that you're gonna do for the entire fucking day. You go and do your 3rd set, you have drastically decreased how optimal the sets are. Why? Because if you think about it, when are you gonna be the most effective? When you're freshly warmed up and it's your first real go at things. If I said to you, hey, line up on the track, go run 100 meters all out, 100%. And I say 3 minutes later, okay, back on the track. All right, you take a 3-minute break after that first run. And I say, okay, go run 100 meters again. Which time do you think is gonna be faster? The first. If you really ran as fast as you fucking could on that first 100 meters, there's no way you can duplicate it on the second run of the 100 meters. And the same thing's true. If you get underneath the bar and you squat all out on your first set, like you leave it with where you only have 1 or 2 reps left in reserve, you are not gonna be able to duplicate it on your second set, and even less on your third. So understand your first set, the most effective, the second set, the second most effective, and really your first like really 10 sets, from there on in, there's an increasing drop off in how effective each and every set is. So as a guiding principle, I would tell you, if you're serious about building muscle, if you're serious about changing your body, you wanna do, if you're trying to improve a certain part of you, at least 10 sets of that muscle. And that's if you're trying to make adaptation. So for example, if I want my chest to get bigger, I want to be doing 10 sets a week. The best way to do that is to spread it out. You know, some people say you could do it 3 times a week. It's really somewhere between 2 and 3 times a week, usually depending on the muscle group. And it would be something like, one day I train 5 sets of chest, Maybe on Monday, Thursday, I train 5 sets of chest again. That would be my total number of sets being 10 sets a week. In the example I said earlier about my quadriceps, what I usually go to is the gym. I use my app. I go and I do my leg press. I do 3 working sets. Then I'll go do a couple sets of leg extensions, and then I will go do some squats. And that will be me training my quads for one day. The next day I'll go to the gym. I'll do actually leg press again. And then instead of leg extensions, I'll do hip thrusters on a machine. And then I'll go back and I will do another squat variation. And that's where it puts me in that range of like where, and sometimes maybe I cut back, like maybe the sets were hard, so I do less, but it's always somewhere between that 10 and 14 sets of quadriceps. And that's what I do consistently each and every single week. It's also important when you're looking at the number of sets that you do per week to understand what I call fractional sets. And this is a little complex, but when I do something like a hip thruster, it works my glutes, but it also works my quadricep. So that I actually put that in a bucket for both glute training and quadricep training. Squats are as effective at building your glutes as hip thrusters. So when I squat, I consider that a set towards not only my quads, but also my glutes. Let's say I do chin-ups. Pretty obvious exercise. When I do chin-ups, you think my biceps are working? Of course. So I consider this a fractional set in that I'm both working my arms and my back. The way I do this is I play with it. Like let's say I go to the gym and I want to train back and biceps. I might do 3 sets of chin-ups. Well, then I have 3 sets already done. I just did only 3 sets, but really what I did is 3 sets for 2 different muscle groups. So understanding fractional sets in the sense of when you're building out your program, or if you're having someone build it out for you, understand that some sets, they carry into 2 different areas. So you could be working 2 muscles simultaneously while doing it. Same is true, like if you think you're bench pressing and you're not fatiguing your triceps, of course you are. The more pressing you have in your program, the probably less need there is for triceps. There's still gonna be need for direct work, but if you're doing a ton of pressing, you're gonna need less direct tricep work in your program. So I talked at the beginning and I said we have a ton of literature, and what we do know is the more volume you do, the more it will lead to muscle growth. We don't really see a number yet where it seems to prevent muscles from building, at least from the research. Again, when you talk to experts, they have opinions about low volume, high volume. There's very different feelings in the field. It looks like people still get results up to 30 sets, including fractional sets, a week. I personally have never fucking trained that way. I have never in my life, and I've gotten pretty fucking jacked off of it. I'm about 255 pounds, about 10% body fat, and I have never done 30 sets for my quads or my glutes or my biceps. I would say at an extreme level when I was younger, I used to do closer to like 20 something sets per muscle group. And these days, I really probably don't go higher than like 16 sets for any muscle group in my body. And most of them are closer to like that 12 to 14 number. I'm not telling you that's what you need to do, but honestly, what I would really shoot for is 10 plus, and I would really not bother to do more than 20 sets per muscle group. I just don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's gonna really help you get any results. And remember, each of those sets that you continue to go on, they're diminishing and you're only tiring yourself out more. So if you wanna be a great parent, if you wanna be there to show up for your career, you burning yourself out by doing an extra 10 sets that really are gonna have very little produce compared to the first 10 sets, why even bother? Just save it on the field. The diminishing returns are so small, I would just wait for it. I think it's also very important to understand not all muscle groups respond the same way to volume. As an example, hamstrings, they really don't need as much volume as quadriceps. So when I say that you should be doing at least 10 sets of hamstrings a week and probably somewhere between that 10 and 20 sets, hamstrings would lean closer to the 10 sets and quadriceps would lean closer to the 20 sets. So when I do hamstrings, if I'm really trying to grow my hamstrings, I only do 10 sets a week. But when I'm trying to grow my quadriceps, I'm doing somewhere between 10 and 14 sets of quadricep per week. I just want to keep it on your radar, and I'll put up a little screen here talking about different volume for different chests. We actually include this on our guide for training, the Zemer Method Guide for Training, the full write-up of all this and explaining it in more detail. We also, in our app, obviously we build the program right for you, so you don't have to bother understand this. It's just packaged, so you know exactly what to do when you're at the gym. But the point is that different muscles require different volume to grow, and different people, as I mentioned earlier, they respond differently to stimulus. Some people, again, all they have to do is walk around and like work as a FedEx driver or be a dad, and they have the most massive calves ever seen. And then there's other dudes who are at the gym training 7 days a week and their calves are absolutely a joke. So just understand that there's a very big difference in how your body responds, and even each muscles need which amount of volume. One other thing that you can play with that's really important when you look at volume is frequency. Because remember, the definition of volume is the total amount of sets per muscle per week. So if I, for example, do biceps and I do 15 sets of biceps per week, one of the ways you could do it is 15 sets all at once. Another way to do it is 8 plus 7, meaning in one workout I did 8 sets, and in another workout I did 7. Another way to do it is 5 plus 5 plus 5. Either way, I still ended up with 15 sets of biceps in my program. Which one of these ways is best? I would absolutely suggest, if you're gonna do 15 sets of biceps, you break it up into at least 2 sessions. Think about it. Let's say you have to take medication. I take minoxidil for my hair. The doctor gives me 30 tablets. What if I swallow all the pills at once? Is that the same as taking 1 pill every day? Obviously not. Going to the gym and doing 15 sets in 1 session, is that the same thing as doing 8 sets one day and 7 sets the other? Absolutely not, because when I'm first doing my first set, again, when I'm at the gym, that's going to be my most valuable set. So that's why people might even think about breaking it up. I've had my best results always when training biceps, doing it 3 times a week, because it means that I can really give my all on those first couple sets each day I train. So my biceps, by doing it, breaking it up 3 times a week, they're really able to get more quality sets by breaking them apart. So I would not suggest doing 15 sets in 1 session, because by set number like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, they're gonna be trash. They're gonna be horrible sets. You're gonna be doing so much less weight than you would if you broke it up like this. So frequency is something that you can definitely play with. All this, what we're talking about today, in terms of application, what does it look like? Well, what it should look like is that you're tracking the total amount of sets that you do for each muscle group, so that each week you know, hey, I'm doing 12 sets of chest, I'm doing 12 sets of deltoids, I'm doing 10 sets of triceps, etc., etc., etc. If you do not have a plan, then you are planning to fail. That is a simple way of I can put it. There are just simply too many glutes, hamstrings, quads, calves, biceps, triceps. There are too many muscle groups involved that if you're not keeping track of it all, or if you don't have somebody keeping track of it for you, there's no way you're gonna get optimal results, because you simply don't have a program that's allowing you to get appropriate amount of volume for each and every muscle. And that's it. Those are really our 4 major principles for building muscle: mechanical tension, progressive overload, intensity, and volume. Those are the things that you can do in the gym to get the best results of your life. Guys, if you like what you saw today, please hit subscribe. I really appreciate you joining in and watching this 4-part series. I feel very passionate about this. This was the beginning of my career. I was a personal trainer. Now I'm a coach. I have a large online business, but I still do semi-private training. I still love doing it. I love instructing people on how to weight train properly. I look forward to going to the gym each and every single day. If you like what you saw today, you can hit subscribe, follow. We release 1 long format video each and every single week. Thanks for tuning in.